Our rolling live coverage of the 17th World Conference on Tobacco, where health practitioners say smokeless tobacco is as dangerous as any other regular cigarette. They say about 300 million people are believed to use smokeless cigarettes across the world, the majority of whom are in Asia. Delegates at the conference have also released the 6th edition of the Tobacco Atlas, which details the scale of tobacco use globally. While delegates are about to sign a declaration, our reporter Zandila Mesa is at Cape Town's ICC standing by with a wrap.
Yes, indeed. The declaration is much anticipated. We're only moments away from these resolutions to being signed and adopted. However, more importantly, on another note, we've got a very young, dynamic man with us here, and they are calling for the youth's participation in tobacco control. And we had a youth conference actually that preceded this one earlier this week, and their declaration was signed. And he's going to talk to us a little bit more about that. So, young people and tobacco, how important is it for young people to participate in efforts to control tobacco?
Yes, basically about 80% of what the tobacco company does is targeted at children and adolescents and even youths in all its forms. So definitely we are the most affected, if you look at it well, from the harms of the tobacco company. So definitely we are not coming into this business of fighting against the greatest enemy of humanity, then we are not doing ourselves the best, because these people that are dying from all these diseases are our colleagues. So definitely the youths are a major stakeholder in the fight against tobacco. It is now or never.
Talk to us about this declaration that young people signed.
Yes, youths from all over the world came together at the pre-conference, and we were able to resolve that we want to start a movement to stop new young new smokers from initiating tobacco smoking. So we came up with this idea of a bet-year based cohort that's for Tobacco Free Generation movement. What we're basically saying is that if we pick a year like 2010, we want all children born after 2010, from 2010 downwards, not to be able to access or buy tobacco or any of its products. What we are saying is basically it is end time for the tobacco company. We can't look at what they are doing to us and keep quiet anymore. So we want to start to legislate this and try to get partners and collaborators from all over the world. The WHO director has declared his support for this agenda. We want to make sure that people born from 2010 downwards don't have access to purchase tobacco or its products.
Give me a few examples of some of these initiatives that are going to be implemented to achieve tangible results from this declaration.
Yes.
How is it going to change the lives of young people?
Yes, basically what the tobacco company does is when a tobacco addict dies, they replace such from the youths that are from 14 years old to 18 years old or thereabout, and probably to 24 years. So what we're basically doing is that once this endgame strategy is implemented by, we are going to form an African Tobacco Free Generation movement, which we're calling on African-based public health organizations and the global ones to support us so that we can do this, because Africa is actually where the tobacco companies have shifted to. And we have a very naive population that just copies and takes these practices from the West, and we get ourselves into all this mess. About 7 million lives are lost annually from these tobacco products. They are nothing but the enemies of humanity. So this is what we are basically saying. Once we form the African arm of the Tobacco Free movement, Free Generation movement, we get support and we start implementation across the African countries. That's what the first stage. Then we also will launch it globally. We've been in touch with some of our youth colleagues in Indonesia and some other parts of the world, Singapore. They are also going to start implementation from their side. But the focus generally is on low developing countries like Africa. the continent of Africa, where we have a lot of low and middle income countries. So that's why we are taking that as the first step. So we need collaborations, partnerships, so that we can effect the African Tobacco Free Generation movement, youth movement.
A lot of the tobacco companies have actually spoken about tobacco control, and we just want to get a reaction from you on some of these companies that are promoting e-cigarettes and vaping as an alternative. Just a quick reaction to that.
There are not enough research. It's still quite dicey, but the truth is, vaping or no vaping, we don't want anything to do with anything nicotine, anything tobacco. We don't want it.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was a very young, dynamic man with us here from the conference. We will be bringing you a lot more on the declaration that is currently being signed. It's us from here in Cape Town. It's back to you in studio.